Evening from Uganda. Welcome to today's edition of Uganda show on Civic Space TPI, Theater. And I want to say Uganda is so happy to be talking to you today. The world is so happy to be talking to you. Uganda, specifically, it's sunny afternoon, sunny heading to the evening. And as you know, the part of Africa is a beautiful country where the change the tide, some rain, the daytime, and wind. So it's the Uganda. Many of you, not all of you have been in the country and you can attest to that. Today, our subject of discussion is labor export in Uganda, and we want to critically talk about the challenges that happen there. Labor export, is it a viable industry Uganda should pursue, continue pursuing? Is it something Uganda has to go off? Is it something that only for a bit of improvement, or is it something that is only held for Uganda? Here, Ugandans that have their relatives out there, but also the Ugandans that are outside there now. Before we get into that very detailed conversation, I will give a minute to each of you to briefly talk to us about yourself, where you are, the environment, and what really is eye-catching the space you are in right now. Please, I'll give a minute, and I think I should start with Mr. Gordon. Where you are, how are you, how is the environment before we get into the conversation?
Thank you, Philip. Thank you so much. My name is Gordon Murangira. I'm a Ugandan. I'm in the UAE, in the capital, Abu Dhabi. Is that all?
Yes, me.
For introduction.
Mr. Gordon, what's making news in Abu Dhabi? What is that one thing you want the Ugandans to know about Abu Dhabi today?
Abu Dhabi is the most secure city in the world that you know. It's one city where you are and you don't have to worry about anything. You can get your phone, drop it somewhere on the outside, go and find it after 2 hours, which I'm sure cannot happen in Uganda. So the only thing that I would love my country to take from here is try to make our place secure, to make our country more reliable in terms of security for both property and personnel. It's very rare to find that someone has been shot in Abu Dhabi. It never happens, actually. It can never happen. In my city, anyone can have a gun. There are so many unregistered guns in Kampala, in Uganda, which causes insecurity. So the only thing that I would want my country to take on from here, for me, is to make our place secure for lives and property of Ugandans. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Gordon. Unlike what you said, some people will actually say that it's gun, the security, but that's for another. Let me go to Madam Miriam. Talk to us. How are you and how is where you are?
Hi, Phillip. Hi, my fellow analysts. I'm well, and I've been in Kampala. I just came back this week, so quite a lot of it's quite an experience that you feel like Gordon said. You feel like as if you can squeeze out something more. You feel like I wish someone can wake up one day and really do something. We have the potential to do a lot, but we are doing nothing. And the saddest part is that even the good that is there is being destroyed. So it was an inspiring an inspiring image that I came back with. And when you come back to other people and you see how their countries are well organized, you feel defeated inwardly.
Yes. Thank you so much, Madam Miriam, for saying a lot more countries and at least Uganda they can boost of a city, for example, Kampala, that was critically organized for some 2 weeks. Then we had about 3 major conferences, the conference of speakers and presiding officers of the Commonwealth at the conference of an Analyst movement, but also the President of China and Uganda said that is possible here. Thank you. I will then go to Mr. Francis. Yes, talk to us.
Hello, thank you, Muliisa, for giving me this opportunity and other fellow panelists. My name is Francis Kamuhanda, and I'm the coordinator for Alliance for National Transformation for the US chapter. And I'm here living in Virginia and in the US and trying to do a lot of work and learning, waiting for an opportunity when Uganda can accord me the opportunity to have everything I have learned to practice it back home. But unfortunately, things seem not to be working well back home, in my opinion, because everything rotates around. We had an able leadership to be able to usher in the changes that are pro people, not the changes that you see, like you hinted on the non-allied movement. I don't know, they are not allied to what, but for me, every country that was there, I have always seen where they are allied to, and if not, if need be, they always say they are neutral. And if I can use the analogy of heaven, so if there is heaven and hell, the hottest part in hell is for the undecided. So you have to decide. You can't say you are non-aligned to what if you don't have an ideology. But this I see it as a club of leaders just moving, hopping from one country to another, and then having fantasy that you are a chair of a non-allied movement, which since the 1950s we have not seen any fruits that come from it. It is so unfortunate. And then you go and pride yourself that you hosted the G77 plus China. So why can't we call it the G77 plus Uganda? So it is all a lot of stuff that I still try to learn. But anyway, having said that, I'm happy to be on this show always and discuss issues that are of importance to Uganda and Ugandans at large. Thank you. And our viewers and listeners, once again, you are most welcome, and I look forward for a fruitful deliberation. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Francis. I'd like to say that the hottest place in hell is but also we talk about getting the opportunity to practice in Uganda. The government and the worldwide Mr. Kamuhanda and all we do is give them an opportunity to transform our society. Gentlemen and ladies, the lion in the house today, labor externalization, labor export. And when we talk export, many Ugandans say, oh, export coffee, export gold, export fuel, export. There's commodity and subject to tariffs and so on. It is unlikely that anyone could call human beings, especially the export. How, from the look of things, many Ugandans, like many other Africans, run what different parts of the world. That is not the subject, but the experiences we go through in those countries are the subject of discussion today. Many stories have come out of Uganda say we are tortured, some say we are safe, others say we will die from out there. And it is a really ugly situation. Listen to a couple of people that have either been there or had their relatives there, or even through the media. I want to start with you, Mr. Gordon, who is an Abu Dhabi. Many of the Ugandans are heading to Abu Dhabi or the Middle East, Abu Dhabi, we talk about Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and those concentrated Arabic nations. Take us where you are, Abu Dhabi, and paint for us a picture of the Uganda who left his country to come and work in Abu Dhabi or other people. Yes, Mr. Bobby.
Mr. Phillip, I think you have forgotten Mr. Okot. He didn't introduce himself. Did you skip him, Mr. Okot?
True.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Gordon, for the reminder. And regards to everybody out there, call me Okot Ochen. I'm based in Vancouver Island, British Columbia, Canada, and I'm Ugandan. I always frequent home from time to time. I must say right now in Canada, especially Western Canada, the weather was bad, but I must say it's now improving. And in comparison to my home country, Uganda, I think what traumatizes me when I go home to Uganda, I'm almost unable to drive, in Uganda, in Kampala. I just get nervous. You gotta dodge the borders and everybody. While here, things flow. When it's green, it's green. When it's yellow, there's order. So, like, I must say, there's a lot of disorder back home. If you live here and you go home, you can easily get disoriented and discouraged. And secondly, here in Canada, we are preparing for the federal elections coming up. So, it's a different kind of elections, very free, and is not militarized, is not militarized, is not transactional based. As a candidate, even you don't spend your own money. You move just from door to door or just go for rallies, people come willingly and they even contribute for you. So it's a different form of democracy. The one home is a nightmare. So thank you. But in terms of the labor piece of it, we have a few Ugandans who come here for work, but the only challenge is the migration process. But otherwise, jobs are plenty here. Yeah, jobs are plenty. But at least you gotta start from the bottom. Your credentials from Uganda don't count here. You start fresh. At least I never used mine for my career when I came here. I began afresh. Yeah, thank you.
Wow, we're quite scared. Yeah, especially when we talk about the countries from material university, which is our trademark, which is our biggest brand and the education that's called wise like we can compete the global stage. Yes, I come back to you, Mr. Gordon. Thank you for that kind reminder.
Sure. Thank you.
What kind of life are they living? What kind of life are you living in the place? Paint for us a picture.
Okay. Thank you so much, Phillip. Thank you, my fellow contestants. I'm honored to be here today. This is, I think, my first time attending this such a discussion. So I'm always privileged to be here. Thanks, Miriam, for always getting me in. Now, I tell you also, I'm the ANT coordinator for the UAE, the interim coordinator for ANT here in the UAE. I'm a father. I have a number of kids. I'm a married man.
Good.
And so many other things. Now, here in the UAE, sometimes I see news about people who work, who do domestic work, and I see what they go through. Some of it is appalling, some of it is a bit disturbing, but some other people are doing well. We have so many other Ugandans who are here in the UAE who are working month in, month out. They get paid. They're doing amazing things back home. I also happen to be a part of an investment club which we started here as Ugandans in the UAE. and we have invested very well back home. We have acquired over 40 acres of land somewhere, and we're establishing a commercial farm together as a group of 23 people. So who come here in the UAE, they are not all going through the hard time. Some people are doing well, though some other people are going through some challenges. Like the other place, there is no place that doesn't have challenges. Even when you stay back home, challenges are there. Except you have to, position yourself to be able to counter those challenges and come out. Now, here in the UAE, life is good. I can tell you, life is good. Now we have a very good weather. It's not as hot as it was a few months ago. So now it's a bit cold. We're experiencing like tropics. Our weather now is like tropics. So it's kind of good weather. Work is good. People are working. I have seen Ugandans who are doing very good jobs. I see Ugandans doing sales, working as managers of some different companies. Some Ugandans are doing their own businesses. We have some very huge businesses here owned by Ugandans. So it's not all bad, though the other bad side is there. Now, when it comes to labor export, I have two opinions about it. First of all, we have one, as Ugandans, we have had one challenge of the government not taking part in streamlining the labor export business, whether it is a business or it is whatever it is. Our government is not fully involved in it because, see, here in the UAE, there are so many countries that bring people here to work. So many, because almost 90% of the people who work here in the UAE are non-locals, they're non-residents. They are not citizens of this place. We are all expatriates, most of us, almost 90%. So that means so many people are coming here to work. So when you see a Ugandan crying for something that has gone wrong, it's not that all people are crying. We have people from Philippines, we have people from Pakistan, we have people from India, we have people from Europe nowadays. People come from those European countries, and they are coming here to work, and they come work, and they're doing well. The only challenge we have as Ugandans and the workers that come from Uganda, most especially those who are going to do domestic work, because there are different types of Ugandan who come here to work. Some people come here work professionally. Some people come here and they're doing very well in real estate. Some people are here to do domestic work. Those who work as housemaids, those are the ones that have challenges. The reason they have challenges is because, first of all, I feel like some Ugandans are so desperate for work because of the bad situation back home that at some point you cannot blame them. At some point it's do or die. You jump out of the frying pan into the fire, because it's hot here and it is hot where you're going, but you have to keep going either way because you cannot survive back there. So people, for example, some Ugandans who come on their own visiting visas, they reach here without any companies, without any registration. They reach here, then they start looking for jobs, and they end up getting into those domestic jobs without any proper registration, without any proper documentation. The embassy doesn't know, the government doesn't know. You just get into a family of someone and you start working there because it's hot back home. It is hot where you are. You don't have anything. So you just, anything that you get on hand, you go with it. Then you end up getting in situations where you don't even have where to run to. Those are the people that you see on the streets crying. They didn't pay me. They chased me out of the house. They did this to me. They did this to me. So because of that lack of proper arrangement on how to get people into work, the problems will keep happening. So what I would suggest, I don't know whether it's time to suggest what I think is the right thing to do, is that the government.
If I can fully talk to you on that one briefly, when you say people are giving life, you say after the place, you say people are doing great work, that the business is done by Uganda. And there's Uganda out is listening to and that Uganda perhaps lost a sister or brother, they brought back their brother, their sister, well, there's a very good life.
Phillips, your network is not proper. I don't know whether the network or the microphone. I can't pick the words properly. I can't hear properly what you're saying.
Yes, I'm saying,
yeah.
you did say that, life is good enough that he did
Yes.
say that Ugandans are out there own good businesses, they own big shops, so they're doing enough that. But there is a family in Uganda that will tell you that story. They will tell you our daughter died in Baghdad. They will tell you our son came back limping from maybe Qatar. They will tell you our daughter went and came back without being paid. What way like
See, those cases are there. Like I told you, it's not all gold. It's not all silver plate. Some people are going through some challenges because of how they handle their arrangements, because of how they get into their jobs. I've also seen some Ugandans who are working and not getting paid because they are not working on proper visas. So this guy does not have, he can choose to do anything with them and nobody would ask them because there is no proper documentation. There is no proper process on how these guys get the jobs. You see, for example, if I can give an example of me, when I came to UAE, I looked for a job. I put up applications. I got into a company. The company gave me a visa. I did the medical test and all that is required to be able to be fit for work. And there is a document, there is a registration for me. Even the embassy knows me that I'm here working. So if anything goes wrong with me, I can easily be helped by my fellow either Ugandans or the embassy. The government can come through the embassy. But there are people who just come on visas and they end up getting jobs without visas. Someone working on this visa, you can imagine. I've seen some Ugandans working on these visas, which is also illegal and not in order. And if anything happens to you on a visa, the company can easily say they know nothing about you. Now, when it comes to the girls who are working in as maids, what I think should be done to have a streamlined process of how they get to work. The government should get involved so that all the companies that are bringing workers here are properly registered, documented, and the government knows about them. So when they get a girl from Uganda and put them somewhere, they should be able to know how they are being treated there. And this girl should also have access of communication with the company that brought him or her, so that in case there is a challenge, this person can easily, either through the embassy or directly through the company that brought them, they can easily get help if they need help. You get it?
Thank you. And well, I think we shall initially have to add that conversation of the population. But thank you for that picture of life of Uganda, Europe, and by extension the Middle East and how they are living. But I want to come to you, Mr. Francis, who is in the West. When you listen to Gordon, he says there's good life in that and by extension is that the Uganda and by extension the Africa are suffering that part of the world. It perhaps due to some of the challenges for this by themselves. One talks about people who come and visiting visa, people who come, they end up looking for work and they find themselves they have no back. The embassy cannot rescue them, the company cannot rescue them. Take us to Canada. And it is the couple of Uganda in Canada. And the reason I speak from the UK to Canada is that Uganda has seen many conflicts that come from the Middle East, and relatively few that come from Europe and the American, many other parts of the world, including African countries. How different is it than Canada, the extension of Europe, and the rest of America?
I'll begin by saying that for me, my bottom line is always drawn. Number one, whether you are a thief, whether you are illegal, whether you are what, the first thing is do you have right to life? Then number 2, are you a Ugandan? That is my bottom line. Whether where you are illegal, whether where you are you use the wrong whatever, but the whole thing is, are you entitled to life and fair treatment? So that becomes the bottom line. And where do we derive it from? My brother Gordon has put it clear that those some are okay, they are working and they have no problems, which is good news. But my concern is always those who are not okay and are having challenges. What can we do? I will begin by saying he hinted on a lack of a well-streamlined system. The truth is, what is happening in Uganda, in as far as labor externalization is concerned, is slave trade, is modern slave trade. Technically, they are selling these young girls or even boys. Because I am a teacher by profession and I was teaching in Uganda for the last 25 years. At least all the students who pass through my hands, I know 95% and we are always in communication. And they are not 100, they are not 200, but thousands of them. I used to head a school. I can give you a list of each and every, even if you go, the records are there. I can tell you this student, when he finished P7 or this, he went to this place and is doing this. So if an individual can do that, what about these companies whom we have always even saying, although the list is there, they listed them, but we are even going ahead to say there are allegations that some of these companies are owned by the big wigs in the government. What is wrong with Ugandans accessing information to display, for example, what is the governing body behind company X that is exporting labor? And then, as Gordon said, why can't we have, every time these people have challenges, or there is always to allow the bosses in the Middle East to say, this person is going to always be having constant communication with the company that brought them. And then you say once in a while, you can have a Zoom meeting and follow up on what is going on, and then people give you their briefs. Then I always blame government. There is nothing for us without us, we people who are in the diaspora. Why is it that when they are going to make a policy, you think we are so dumb that we can't contribute anything to the policy? That when it is under review, we can't review it? Gordon has said that they have their own, let's say, a group and so on. That means that is an indicator that we who are in the diaspora, we who are in the Middle East working and so on, we have our self-organization. We are organized. That's one of how we survive in the diaspora. And therefore, that's how we manage to follow events.
If you allow me to start, you do mention a couple of stakeholders that aspect. We do talk about government, we do talk about the company, we do talk about the employer, and we do talk about yourself, the diaspora. And our subject is the challenge. Who is the problem among the stakeholders? Is it the government that is not doing their job? Is it the company? Is it the individual? Or is it the employer?
It is the government, to be straight with you. Number one, let's begin. That's what I told you. Why are other people not moving from other countries to go to Uganda? That's where we should begin. Okay. So how does the condition of people being desperate occur in Uganda? Leadership. That's why Okot gave an example that how it is living in an organized country, how it is living in a country that is thinking about its own people. And how is
Mr.
it
Francis,
that, yes,
Mr. Francis, what you say is a little, one can say we have Americans working in the country, we have Chinese working in the country, we have people from across Europe make the country work.
thank you. Give me 2-degree holders who are working as maids from America working in Uganda. And I will give you a list of them who are Ugandans working outside working as maids. So that's where the difference comes in. Okot gave you a good example that with a degree, for example, from Uganda, you reach Canada, you just assume you are starting from zero. Tell me an American who came with a degree, even when that degree is in cutting nails or is in nursery education and is reaching Uganda and is nobody. So when we are talking about these things, we should be objective to ascertain what went wrong. And then how do we rectify it? Or how do we mend? And that's why we take it back to the failure of institutions, the failure of structures. And all these feed into good governance, feed into having good policies, feed into ensuring that the people you are serving get the services that you need. I would just make fun. That's not the real interpretation. When I think Bariomus went on national TV and said, since we are having guests, so when they are coming, you keep smiling at them. Have you ever tried to smile? You know, when we are very young, our mom would beat you because you have done something wrong and then say, can you smile? You see that smile when you are annoyed? So it is the same like situation. So what we are trying to say that, and I have always said this, that when you see a father or a mother telling his or her children that I'm your mother, I'm your parent, just know there is something wrong. You just know there is something wrong. So it is what we are trying to address.
Thank you so much, Mr. Francis. Out there, you cite quite a couple of beautiful things, including laugh at my condition that these people are parents. But I certainly suggest that this is an ideal from child. So leave the hard way and keep the smile. I want to engage you with Okot from Muliisa. And throughout this week, our biggest university has been graduating. I think 14 of about 14,000 students graduated, and very many other people. When you look at the situation we are talking about, we are talking about Ugandans that are dying for this, Ugandans that are living for this without any money, Ugandans that are living displaced with lots of people. Would you advise these fresh graduates, because certainly not all of them are going to find a place in this country, would you advise them to go to the university or perhaps join in Canada?
Thank you very much, Phil. I think that's a very fascinating question. I saw over the news a huge number of Ugandans, students, finished their studies and got their degrees. Congrats to everybody out there. I must say that from my perspectives, as a person who first went to school in Uganda from maybe kindergarten to university in Uganda, and later years came here for further studies and living here currently, I have a multi-pronged kind of advice I would like to share with the younger generations or the fresh, graduates, that if you have a chance to settle and maybe, propel yourself to higher levels within the country, do so. And also, if you have a chance to come out, like to maybe join me in Canada or come somewhere in North America or in Europe, it's okay. But if you come abroad, you have to be kind of a more of a target and strategic, kind of a job seeker or professional. You must have a vision, and above all, you come with a very open mind when you come here, because you might leave the country Uganda as a doctor, a lawyer, even a professor, but at least knowing in North America, most times the credentials outside of North America is hardly embraced. That's Canada. Canada, with some degree, accept maybe credentials from the US, yes. But beyond that, you gotta go back to school or colleges to upgrade your credentials. For instance, I'm in Western Canada. I'm in BC. If I'm to move to Ontario, in Toronto, I'm a lawyer from BC. I have to go back to again to school and get what, more kind of schooling and certification to practice in another province. Example, in Uganda, if you move from northern to south, that means you're gonna get kind of more education to practice in another region. That's how it kind of operates here. So it's a very different kind of professional climate. But what I know that most of my compatriots who come here start from the bottom. They do just the basic. I have the privilege. I've been here for quite a while. I've worked in immigration for like 8 to 10 years in various capacities until the level of director for immigration and settlement. I was in charge for the settlement of the Syrian refugees on Vancouver Island when the time came. So at least I know the process when you come in. There are pathways to come to Canada or abroad. Example, you can come, as under the LOP here. That's the labor, the labor market opinion, whereby the company can hire you from Uganda and sponsor you over here. That is there. Or there's also the family unification kind of, avenue. But most of our people come here as visitors, okay? Then they go and make, refugee claim as asylum seekers. And that's how most of them want to settle here, okay? But it's possible because here, if you come and make a formal and a solid case and you're a claimant, you're able to, get work permit as you wait for your papers to be processed. So you can work gainfully as you wait for your papers to work. So, and the opportunities, if you are a hardworking person and you love to study, you can study until no more. There are rooms here for study. There are student loan schemes. You can get money to study. And then you can begin to repay after completion, 6 months after you finish your university or college, then you begin to pay. And it's not much kind of, pay. You pay maybe like $50 per month. Depends how much you make and how much you want to pay back. So there's room for professional advancement here. There's room for also, your self-care and family. Most times your children will be able to study their quality education, but there are pros and cons here. There are pros and cons. Most Ugandans sometimes end up, giving up or getting excited and getting distracted. That's there too. Yeah, because having worked in immigration and also I come in as a scholar too. I've also met many Ugandan students in universities. I teach university too. I've met many Ugandan students, and that's a harder path. Okay, as students, you can come as a student, and if you complete your college or university, you can also apply for the express entry. Okay, as a professional to remain here. But again, that one takes, is a process. It's a journey. So most times, most Ugandans utilize the path for asylum seekers is faster but risky. It's like a highway, because in Uganda there are many reasons to flee if you want to come here and stay. You are not safe in many ways. So that is what is happening here. But in general, the youngsters who just accomplish their academic journey in Uganda, I implore them to explore all options out there. There are many ways to skin an animal. You can use a knife, you can just cut, at the end is meat. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That was quite elaborate, and maybe later in the show, I want you to maybe briefly, if you can do it in about 10 seconds. What is it about the quality of education in our country that our documents are look who is an analyst?
Come again?
We talk about the documents. For example, we did say the documents from Makerere were considered.
Yeah. Yes.
Why?
Thank you. That's a very interesting question. Like, I've been here for time. I worked both in immigration and academia, and we have challenged the establishment, the government of here, or even got bodies that are advocating for international students, their credentials, or professionals who come over here. Because one thing is clear: when these companies and the countries here go to, like, Africa, to some degree, they don't share the truth. They tell you that they're going to immigrate here to Canada or US as a professional. When you come here, you're surprised that your credentials hold no grain or water. You're going to go out and start afresh. I have friends who are doctors, who are professors from India, Pakistan, who are driving taxis. They were told when they come here, they're coming as professionals. When they arrive here, they're told the credentials are not usable in this place. They're going to go back to school. So most times what they do is they work for their children, maybe to gain from their sweat. So in brief, if you come in from Makerere or from Kyambogo, the best is go back to school and upgrade your credentials. It's possible. I came here, I had my BA from Makerere. I came here, went back to college. I did my college transfer back to university. I had a BA in environmental management from Makerere. I came here, I did the BS in environmental science and technology. I went and did my first MA. I did my MBA, went back and did my postgraduate in mental health and addictions. Doctorate is doable, but it must be determined and focus. You're gonna balance your studies, family life, and back home. You're gonna be disciplined. It's doable. And Makerere is a very good foundation. If you come from Uganda and you come here and you're focused, you can excel. If you can go to in Makerere universities and just get books, dusty books, and read about here, there are internets, there are laptops. You can do your research easily and and excel in your academic adventures. So the foundations back home are solid, except that our English from Uganda here is wanting, not enough. Most times when you come from Uganda, you gotta go back for more English language development. The writing skills are not too strong. The grammar are a challenge. If you realize that right now most graduates from Uganda hardly construct a sentence correctly. Very few. If you tell them write your resume, write your intent, very few will write in good English. No, thank you.
Thank you so much. I would like to engage Madam Miriam on this one. I know, Madam Miriam, Mr. Okot here talks a lot about how to countries, but also the different ways of how people can get there. But I want to push you to some angle, and you have great interest in immigration and refugees for that matter. And one of the challenges that arise when Ugandans and many other Africans, I keep referring to many other Africans because this is not a challenge only Uganda. When they get in these countries, you realize if they are not official, if they do not get the documents, the easiest is they are either taken into prison or they are deported immediately. How does a Uganda who is interested in being in these countries but has found hardship in getting the clear documentation, or perhaps is already there through some illegal channel, how do they strive and get the legal documents that allow them to operate and how?
Okot has highlighted most of the channels that are generally used, but as earlier we noted, as earlier Gordon told us, we all know how desperate people are to get out of the country. And that's the basic problem. Like, people are desperate to do anything to just escape poverty in Uganda. So that's where the problem starts. When you are desperate, you can even swallow poison when you know this is poison. So people try everything and just hope that by luck they might survive it. And that's so sometimes I don't blame people, for just, even if feel this is illegal, this is gonna end me in trouble, you could even be a lawyer and even the hurdles you're gonna go through, you still say, let me try my luck. And people know the right channels. Information is out there on internet. You can even ask to the embassies. You can talk to anybody. You can ask your colleagues what is the right way to do ABCD. Everybody knows the right way, but the right way is as hard as it can be, because most of these developed countries try to limit the number of people they admit into their country because of resources. They also have to manage their resources. If they let an influx come in, what happens to their own people? How do they divide the resources among the people that are there? The only difference, I think, that ending up like in Western countries compared to the Middle East, the difference would come in these countries respect human rights. Like, whether you are a prisoner, whether you are an illegal anything, whatever name they call you, you are still respected as a human being. You could be in some prison or some gazetted area, and maybe you are not allowed to work or to move anywhere as they assess your condition or your documents or whatever, or maybe even as they plan to deport you, but they will still feed you. They will still take care of your health. And that's what is lacking in the Middle East.
If you allow me to intervene on that, you say they respect human rights, you say that you say, but over time, we've seen black children, we've seen immigration in the House of Commons. Every other day, they are talking about how to strengthen and stop black people from entering their country. We saw, I think, 2 years ago, how French police opened fire on black who had legally entered their country. We saw how Spain treated the black people that crossed through Libya and were trying to enter Spain. They are killed in the tent. What is human rights to these people?
Let me say that it's not only the blacks. Okay, the blacks end up being like the majority of the illegal immigrants, because Africa we know we have the poorest. We have resources, but we still have poorest countries in the world. I think the 20 most poorest countries in the world are within our continent. So it's no surprise that people are trying to flee for their survival. And besides the poverty, we still have military conflicts. We have civil wars. So people still try to survive. And like I said earlier, when you are desperate, you are going to use all the desperate means to really cross. And that's why we see, like, on the borders in the Mediterranean Sea, people are drowning, but still people struggle to get through. So when you see it's the blacks, they would say the blacks. Some people talk blacks because they are racist. I can say that. But it's not only the blacks. If you look at the Mexican border of USA, you're going to see most of the Caribbean countries, most of those Hispanic countries, they also go through the same thing. They are in civil wars and their people are trying to flee the country. So most of these illegal immigrants that find themselves at the border are equally from all shades. They can be Chinese, they can be Filipinos from the other side of the continent. They can be Indians, they can be anything, but the blacks, I think, sometimes form the majority in some areas, especially in Europe, for the reason that Africa is the rest of the earth. We still are still found in our continent, and we need to do something about it. Before you move on to the other point I wanted to highlight, currently Uganda is the largest supplier of labor to in sub-Saharan Africa, to any part of I think basically in the Middle East, but to any part. It's like Uganda is the largest. That's the one of the countries that the young people are trying to flee for their survival. That's a bad record. There is nothing about exporting labor. All of us here are exported labor in one way or the other, because we are here, we are working to survive. Even when you are living here with your family, whatever, you are working, and we still Ugandan. So some way, somehow we can count as exported labor, but the real exported labor, as in the Uganda way, is mismanaged, and that makes it almost like human trafficking. There is a thin line between what is happening in Uganda and human trafficking, as in the real legal criminal way. So that is what we should look up to. I know Ugandans are desperate to flee for life. The poverty levels have jumped from today, when the last count in 2019, I think UBOS statistics show that poverty in 2019 is much worse per household, is much worse than it was in 2005 when Uganda started exporting labor legally to the Middle East. So it's not getting any better. It's instead getting much more worse. You highlighted how the Makerere is graduating students now. One of my nieces graduated yesterday, and congratulations to her and all those graduates. But where are they going after that? And why is it that we are the people who have a country that is not planning for its people? We can't say that we have exploding number of people. No, if you look at the square area of Uganda, its fertile area, its resources, and you look at the people of 45 million that we are not too many. But the problem is the planning, the poor planning. If you are not planning for your people, it's your people who are going to end up drowning in the ocean or ending up in slave labor in the Middle East. But if we are planning, people would migrate on less pressure, and then they would take time to move legally or to use the documentations that would enable them have a good life in the countries they are migrating to, or either to work or to live there.
You said a couple of these things, and they are really matters of concern to a country like Uganda. I want to come back to Mr. Gordon where we started. You see, when you look at the submissions from most of the panelists, there are Ugandans in Europe, there are Ugandans in Canada, North and South America, Uganda, many parts of the world. The Middle East keeps being the ugly one, and we keep saying, oh, Ugandans shouldn't go to the Middle East. How does the Middle East, in your own view, try and correct this image of itself? How does the Middle East try and rectify the mistakes that have been committed in the Ugandans complain, because they say the few of them are complaining, so that they stop the complaint, so that they can live a good life like you are living. Yes, good.
Okay, thank you so much, Philip. Once again, I said good life, but I didn't say good life like per se, the high-end good life. We're just living normally. You keep mentioning good life as if we're living some in the clouds. Now, first of all, I don't know whether the people who have come to the Middle East, Middle East is a developing world. It's a world that is developing, and if you think there is anything they are going to correct because one Ugandan girl who was mismanaged by his country, whose country is not taken care of, has a problem, and you think Middle East would shrink because of that, I don't think it's going to be possible. They are running at a very high rate, and I'm not sure that is something they are worried about today. Now, this is what I wanted to, Madam Miriam talked about it when he said it is more or less like, how do you call it, people who are being taken legally. Now, our people are not being taken, back in days when we talk about slavery, like the modern day slavery, back in days, they used to come to Africa and get people, take them to work for free. These days, they don't have to come to you, you come to them. You bring yourself. That's why they called it a modern way of slavery. Back in days, they used to work for food and shelter. They would take you, work day and night, they will give you food and shelter. Today, you bring yourself, you work for the same food and shelter because nothing much. But again, I don't want us to look at Middle East as the worst place that anybody can ever be. Middle East is a good place, except that there are some things that have to be worked on, not only by the Middle East, but also by the governments from which the people come from. Like, for example, you talk about, Madam Miriam talked about trafficking of people. You see, today, let me finish this one. Up today, we have companies in Uganda that are operating illegally, trafficking Ugandans to the Middle East, and the government is doing nothing about it. So that is what is causing the problem, that people are coming through illegal means. Because see, if you can, like I told you, 90% of the people in the Middle East are expatriates. But how many people have you seen crying? Very few of those. Unless those ones who are doing the basic works, who come illegally, in legal means. And, Mr. Francis said it doesn't matter whether they came illegally, as long as they're human, they should be treated like human beings. Of course, that's the ultimate goal. But how do we How do we sort it out? How can it be solved if we don't?
If you allow, that particular point, if we have illegal companies taking people into the Middle East, maybe it's Saudi Arabia, Qatar, in whichever country in that particular part of the world, that means those countries where you are also will work with illegality. Because if a company is bringing these people to a country, then you have a duty to find out, is it a due process? Are they legal? Is it okay to work with these people?
Okay.
They are comfortable.
Now, yeah, that's a very important point to make. That these countries where people are going also should be able to, put a net to be able to filter out. But remember, these people who are coming are not working for governments; they are working for individuals. Just like individuals in our country bring people illegally, there are some individuals who want to receive people illegally. It's not a government job that is distributing housemaids to its citizens. No. Illegal people connect with other illegal people, and they do illegal work. Governments, until when there is a problem and someone reports to the police, then government gets to know. Otherwise, the governments never know. So I think the first thing to be done is ensure we curb these illegal companies that are trading our girls into these housemaid jobs. If we can get a way of stopping that from happening, and we ensure that whichever Ugandan comes to the Middle East or wherever, reports to the embassy first before they go to where they're supposed to work. So the embassy gets to document them, gets to know, to get their contact, to know where they are working. In case there is a problem, we know where to start from. Because see, the Middle East is big now. There are many families. The population is increasing on a daily. So you cannot be able to track it if there is no smart way of getting in and out. You cannot be able to know where the problem, how to solve the problem when someone gets in it. So in my view, first of all, Ugandans who have not yet come to the UAE. UAE is still a budget place. They see jobs. People still come here and get jobs. There are so many jobs around here. People are getting paid. I've seen some house managers, you call them the housemaids, who have done something for themselves back home, who have built houses for their parents, who have set up some small farms, who are doing something. I've seen, I have examples that I can give you. But there are some others that are crying. So if you make it look like coming to the Middle East is the worst thing that can ever happen, no, some people are winning. Some people are coming here and winning. So the only thing that has to be done is ensure that how you come through the right channels, be in the right hands, follow the right process, so that if there is a problem, we can easily look out for you.
Thank you so much for that.
Has always been saying as well.
Thank you so much, and Mr. Gordon sends out an invitation to you Ugandans to actually go in the East and work, because there's virgin opportunities for you to earn. But I want to come to Mr. Francis Kamuhanda, and through history and many other ways, it is said that Black people built the America, Black people built Europe, and these were taken as slaves. And today, many people are alluding to the fact that Black people are actually building the Middle East. They are going out there to build this place. When are these Black people, including yourself, going to come back and say, let us build Uganda, let us build East Africa, let us build Africa? What happened to the Pan-Africanism, the patriotism? Why don't you build this country?
Thank you, Ms. Muliisa and my fellow panelists. And a lot has been said. To the question that you are telling me that, or you are asking that Black people built America and all other different places where they were taken as slaves, that is true. And Gordon put a point clear that yes, during those times they used to grab you, they take you, but now more or less you take yourself. But let me give you another bottom line. Did you know that all these countries, including Arab countries, participated in slave trade? And do you know that if you go to Canada, if you go to America, name those countries, you will find their remnants of the descendants of slaves? Have you ever seen descendants of slaves in the Middle East? Where did they go? The people they took. That shall be a discussion for another day. But now to the bottom line, the Middle East, they have a culture right away from the beginning. The culture of having slaves is part and parcel of their lifestyle. I think that is one thing also that should come out we teach our people. But then, as Gordon said, that there are bad people in the Middle East and bad people in Uganda, so who connect, and then they find it as a lucrative trade of taking people without legal means. But that does not rule out that even those who go through legal means still suffer. We also have a list of them. But now, what I want to emphasize here is what my party, the ANT, has always said. Number one, that there is lack of values. If as a country we don't have values, Gordon said that fears to drive in Uganda. So there is lack of those values within the people, the culture of values. And then when it comes to the governance, values in governance, transparency, accountability, corrupt free, and so on, then it makes it worse. And the only way we can solve this is to have functional structures of government, which the movement government collapsed. There is no structure of government in the movement government that is functional. Otherwise, we would be having the checks and balances on some of these petty issues.
Mr. Kamuhanda, if you allow me, how are we going to revive the structures? How are we going to fix the value when the productive age of this country, when you look at when companies are recruiting, they will tell you we want between, say, 18 and 35. This is the productive age. But two, remember our population, when you look at data from the Uganda Bureau of Statistics, it will tell you that about more than 40, about 40% of the population of Uganda are people below the age of 15, about 40%. That means the few that should be able to grow to be engaged in the production and the preaching of the values you talk about are actually out of the country.
Yes.
How do you connect that?
I'll give you again a quotation from Pico. That was European history. He said that condition must be bad for men in large numbers to rise up into a revolution. So equally, conditions are bad at home. That's why we are saying we should improve them. Towards the fall of Obote, sorry?
Conditions must be bad for large numbers of the revolution. And the large numbers today are people leaving the country in the east. Is that the revolution?
Yes, that's what I'm saying, that the discussion should be, what do we have to do? And of course, there are a series of issues we have to work, including, for example, how do you bring investors? If you are a certain country, you bring investors into Uganda. And the only thing is, even when they're in Uganda, they bring expatriates. Ugandans are employed as casual laborers. And machines are chopping off their hands, and no Uganda labor institution is coming in for them. How do you bring in that you are bringing investors who are hawking phones, who are hawking handkerchiefs? Haven't you seen the Chinese and some other people? And then what will the locals do? And you think you are building a country? So there are so many other components of our government that a certain government should not be doing, but they are doing it. Not until we go there, and then Miriam said we have to plan for the younger generation. These countries that you see where we are, they are well planned. Gordon said that the Middle East or the Arab Emirates is taking off at a high speed. Why? Because they are planning. They are people in leadership with good intentions. But our leaders, their will is ill. And the moment we have such a leaders, we are smartly dressed going nowhere. So that's why we are saying that not until we look at leaders. You talked a good point about patriotism. Yes, I do understand. That's why as ANT, we move around the country, even teaching people values that look here. We own this country. We have to define its destination and so on and so forth. It is a two-way
question. Given by luck or by opportunity, the ANT's power tomorrow, will you put an end to the export of labor in Uganda?
While it may not be an instant solution that we say stop exporting labor, but at least we would put in a process that is well known, not the process that now that we have. There is no process at all.
Thank you so much. I want to let you, Mr. Okot, again briefly about the patriotism and the Pan-Africanism. Our people keep living the productive age, 18 to 35. The men, the women, they are living. And when you go to the details of the invitations and contracts for jobs, they tell you they need a healthy youth, a healthy young person to go out of Uganda, to go out of Kenya, to go out of South Africa. Who is going to build this continent? Is it no time you actually go out there, come back here to contribute to the problem?
Thank you very much. I want to convey that we Ugandans in the diaspora love our homeland so much that every penny that we kind of, invest here, we try to actually pass home. We actually try to support very many friends, family members, and even invest back home. That's a clear indication for our love for our country, being patriotic, being practical. We are already doing that. But as my colleagues were saying, fish begins to rot from the head. The challenge that is facing Uganda right now is governance. Some of the things now you're seeing right now came after the NRA captured power forcefully and imposed themselves on Ugandans. And in the process, they duped many Ugandans. And others realized along the way that they were being duped. That's why you see now you have people who left NRA came out to form what, different parties. There are very few Ugandans who discovered from day one that this thing of NRM was a deception. Okay? So, for example, if you notice, I have no party, I'm independent, I have no party, but I can say that the party that I was nurtured under, that was UPC. It actually cared so much for the youngsters. It was a party for the youth, the women, and the workers of Uganda. And that time, if you notice, if you finish your studies at university, there were opportunities. The governments were a little bit creative, in the sense that they tried to absorb the youngsters, the graduates from universities into government institutions. So governance is the biggest challenge at the moment in Uganda. There's lack of transparency, there's lack of accountability, there's lack of inclusivity. They are just a club of a few who are out there. So I would submit that we were in the diaspora. We have love for Uganda, and we do always contribute. But our biggest challenge right now back home is the governance. There is mega and massive corruption. So you find that the graduates and the youth from disadvantaged families who have no political godfathers sometimes are not able to access opportunities for jobs, for further studies, or even loans to initiate investments or enterprises, because they lack that kind of political mothers and fathers. So we need a country whereby everybody is equal, where there's opportunity for everybody out there. So that is my take, and I hope, as I said, that fish begins to rot from the head. Our biggest challenge as a country is governance and leadership. Our parliament has let us down. It has turned to be a club of very few serious, resourceful Ugandans. Most of them are just joy riders. The district local government have become too many districts, whereby actually the cost even of running the districts is wasting taxpayers' money. So the country actually, we are wasting resources, we are wasting money, we are spending money in the wrong place. The money we're using on administrative staff would be used to create employment opportunities for the youngsters. Are we there?
I think Philip has gone off a little bit as we wait for him. Yeah.
So that's my take. Someone can jump in.
Yeah, maybe I can add on from what you've said. I think, governance is a big issue, and it should be a concern for all of us, because without governance, is like your household without a head. I mean, it's where is the country going? When you see people, Philip called it labor drain, like all the reproductive population age of Uganda is running out of the country. But even if they have stayed in the country, what can they do inside? They are running out because they have nothing to do. They have no choice. They have no means of survival. So even if they stay inside, what can they do? So the labor drain, we now have a brain drain, we have a labor drain, which could be like human resources drain, we have skills drain. So the whole, it's like a person who is hemorrhaging, like you are losing blood, which would build your body. So our country is losing the most productive of the population. We are losing the most productive people. We are losing the most skilled. These are people who have graduated. We don't have very many. By the way, Uganda as a country, if you have 40 million people, we have less than maybe less than 2 million graduates, the whole country. So we don't have many of them. But even the few of them, which are like a drop in the ocean, the few of the educated we have are running out of the country because there is no space for them to explore the opportunities within Uganda. They don't have the right environment, they don't have the right resources, the right support as far as governance is concerned. So they are running out just to survive. Imagine running if you are a graduate from Uganda. Maybe you studied economics or whatever. Imagine making that hard decision to run to go to the Middle East to be a housemaid, to be paid 800,000 Ugandan shillings. I don't know how many dollars are those. It's less than it's slightly more than $200, maybe.
$200, yes.
Imagine making that hard decision. I mean, I was in Kampala, 800,000 can't do anything for you. It can't even feed you for a week. The fuel for a day, actually to survive a day in Kampala, if you are renting maybe say apartment of 500,000, imagine if you are earning 800,000. How many days can it take you through within a week or a month when you are paid another check? So the survival, it's a thin line. It's if you are going to work for food, just not even working for money for investment, but you are just going out of the country all that distance just to work to survive for the basics. So it's not like you are getting extra money. I mean, if you go work in the West, at least you can afford food, you can afford even your life, you have the right and the freedom to live and thrive as an individual. As Okot said, you can even study, you can explore everything. You have a good medical care, you have your human rights are protected and ensured, at least at the basic minimum. And then you work that extra money for investment or for your own good life or improving your welfare. But it's not like you are working to survive, just working for food, shelter, not even medical care. I was listening to a lady, and she was saying that when they go to the Middle East, these are people who go through the right channels that we were recommending. She said that when they reach there, they are even injected stuff they don't understand. Like, okay, it could be vaccinations, maybe the right things, but I wish Gordon you could elaborate more on that. But if you are injected into some, for instance, if there are people who even react, they say that if you have allergy to eggs, don't take COVID vaccine. I mean, like if you're allergic, it might be fatal for you. So imagine if you were at that condition where you are vaccinated, like cows going into a kraal, like you don't even know what they are pushing into your body. Even if you're sick, nobody's there to take care of your welfare. And even contacting the government to evacuate you is almost impossible. That's slavery. That has no any other name but slavery. Of course, we don't expect in 21st century slavery to look like the one in 1900 where they were still dragged in chains. We don't expect it to come looking like this, but this is the slavery of our day. Nobody should be running from their own country to just work for food or survival. Basic minimum survival, food, shelter. It is not even the basic, because you can't even have the education. You can't even have the medical care, because the basics of human survival, we all know them. It's food, it's shelter, it's medical care. At least you should have education. But those basics can't be ensured in Uganda, let alone the country where you are running to. And then we can't call that externalization of labor. No, it's not. This is slavery, because even survival is not ensured. And that's a big problem. Phillip, are you back?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that submission, Madam Miriam. We are nearing the end of the show. I want to engage Mr. Gordon briefly once again. One of the things we know about the Arab world is this is a conservative society. I want you to speak to the relationship between the expatriates, you yourselves, interpersonal relationship between you and the employers and the general population in the Middle East. How is it like?
Yes, it's true that people here are conservative indeed. But again, this is not going to be for a long time, because as we speak right now, things are changing. Things are changing. I'm sure those who are in UAE maybe 20 years away from today, they could not drink alcohol. Today, I can leave work and go have my beer. You know? So life is changing. They are moving towards liberal, not completely liberal, but then they are trying to normalize the conditions to make it easier for expatriates to be here. I understand we have some Muslim colleagues who don't eat pork. This being a Muslim country, would you expect pork to be sold here? But it's being sold. You can go to the supermarket, buy your pork, go cook it and eat it. So things are changing, though it might not be as rapid as you might want it to be. But with time, things will change completely. Most of the companies here are not owned by the local people. But even if they are owned by the local people, you rarely see the owners of the companies. The management is done by the expatriates, who are now us. We are the one who manage the companies on behalf of the locals. So you rarely see them. So it's the information that comes out. I think everyone has their own experience, for sure. Like Madam said, you're talking about people who are being vaccinated by force. I remember when we were having COVID vaccine here, they had to ask you, if you said no, they didn't vaccinate you.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I at first I had rejected, but later when I found out there was no problem, after some consultations, we were able to get vaccination. So it's not that they are vaccinating us by force. So those who are vaccinated by force, I don't know where they be. I don't know which house. I don't know where they are staying, because first of all, there has been this very recently. There was a wind of this high cold flu, which was affecting people here. So some families were vaccinating their families to protect them against the high flu that is over because of the change of weather. So probably that person who was vaccinated is it could be that.
If you allow me, you know that even in the country, you did say that the conditions are very not okay. People are leaving because they can't survive, they can't find what to eat, what to use to take care of their family. But also we have millionaires in this country. There are people who is okay, and what normally happens is that the people that are okay are usually the fewer. And for the case of Uganda, that the top 0.51% is generally very, very okay. So likewise, you find you who is in the UAE is in that top 0.5%, and the rest, the majority are suffering.
But if they're suffering, then see, I don't want to believe. Of course, there are some who are suffering, because we have examples, we have seen people cry. I've watched videos like the one Madam Miriam was talking about. I've seen that video. It caught me, it caught my attention. I felt so bad about it. But I also have seen so many other Ugandans that come to me in the mall, that we meet, we talk. I told you I have a group. We made a group of Ugandans in Abu Dhabi United Investment Club, and we save 200 dirhams per month, 200,000 per month individually. And we have done an investment in Uganda. We are doing an investment. So if you say that it's bad everywhere, I don't understand what you're talking about. But of course, those who are suffering could be there. Those who are going through hard situations could be there. But let's find out why they are going through those hard situations. How can we get them out? Again, Mr. Okot talked about the fact that the fish rots from the head. I believe when the center doesn't hold, things fall apart. Shinachebe, if you read that book. So the problem has to be sorted from back home. See, the reason we come from Uganda to this side is to be able to fund for our families. Our families go through a lot, take us through school. So we cannot see our parents grow old and they cannot work. And we cannot get jobs in Uganda and we keep watching them. We have to go out, hustle, and take care of our families. So that's the reason why we're here.
Let me ask you, would you recommend to your sister or brother home in Uganda to go through some labor externalization company in Uganda so that they can seek employment in Abu Dhabi, Hawaii, or any other place in the Middle East?
I would tell you for myself, for example, forgetting about my sister, me, if I had a job today in Uganda that would pay me almost half of what I earn here, I would love to go home. I love my country. I love home. The weather is good, the food. So my sister, if she cannot get a job in Uganda and she can be able to get a job here, why not? I always tell my guys that I meet here, my fellow Ugandans, that when I'm here working, I be like I'm in Uganda. Because see, if I'm in Uganda working in a bank and earning 1.5 million, and I'm here in sales work earning 7-10 million, though the cost of living is high here, but I would save more than someone who is earning 1.5 in Uganda. Not all the people that come here can be able to get that job like I have or like some other people have. Not people who come because some Ugandans have come from Uganda and have come here and we have a gentleman, I don't know whether you know about him, the owner of Get Quick. He has a multi-billion company here in UAE. He's a Ugandan. He's employing Ugandans. He gets people from Uganda and he employs them here. So it's not all bad like they are saying. There is some light.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Gordon, for that submission. And at least you give some hope to Ugandans out there who have interest in coming to the Middle East, in Abu Dhabi, where you are. And yeah, you share a very good example. I want to come back to Mr. Francis Kamuhanda. And from the ANT perspective, and broadly as a Ugandan, what recommendations do you have? One, for the government. Two, for the companies that bring people outside of the country, but also to the individuals themselves that have to come out of the country. Advice, recommendation.
Muliisa and fellow panelists for insights that you have given. In 1854, Lewis said, "Where chance prevails, it favors the prepared mind." So having said that, there is no way you can say we are going to prosper as a country if we don't have a pre-planning. That's why in Gordon's submission, he said that things are changing in the Middle East. But how is Uganda as an institution or as a country prepared to go away from the traditional way of how her people are benefiting from the Middle East as maids to executive directors in that country? As how foreign come to Uganda not as maids but as executive directors. Number two, how is Uganda. Let us assume that when people like you, Muliisa, get out of university, they don't have experience. But how is the country planning that as Muliisa gets out of the university, there is 6 months or so that companies are mandated that they will give him internship to gain that experience, and then we say, look here, Ugandans are enterprising by default, and then we are not giving them a launching pad. So, and that stems from a weak government, and that's what we are saying. If we are into power, that launching pad. So that, Muliisa, when you come from the university, you are, for example, a fresh graduate, by law, companies of my specialization are supposed to give me internship, and not internship of collecting trash. No. And then you find that once we have that structure, then we are out of where Museveni is moved to a warehouse with empty boxes and is launching it as a factory for radios during COVID. So we move out from that kind of trash to things that are real. So as ANT, we have a transformation agenda, and it spells out clearly about all these different aspects, what we need to do. Back to our own people. Yes, we know there is some level of desperation. It is also important that the world is almost in our hands, the modern young people. You can Google, you can have a network. Don't go on TikTok just to enjoy these funny videos. Don't go on YouTube to enjoy these funny videos. Go on Google to search. You can search, I think if you search Okot, you will get him. If you search Gordon, you will get him, or Miriam. And you can also seek counsel. Than being behind there and people read on your vulnerability, on your how you are desperate, and then at the end of the day, you find you end up into a horrible situation. It is always important to network as young people and grow the network as much as possible and consult widely. Because gone are the days for us when we are growing, whenever they would want even to tell you that to take a letter, you would move, or if you are fortunate, you use a bicycle, you are riding 100 kilometers. You are taking a letter that they have written, you get there, you see it, they write a reply, you come back. If you don't have a bicycle, you foot like for a whole day, you sleep there for 2 days as legs are resting, then they give the reply, then you again put back, like, it takes a week. But now almost everything is at the tip of your hands. And once we have now government that have good structures, government that is sane, a person like Muliisa would not moderate this show, and then because of internet, which should be a basic right for him to do, is dropping on and off. And then we have a smooth conversation where he's assured, I have my people, I'm moderating them, and everything is smooth. But because, and Okot hinted on something, the legacy that NRM is going to leave in Uganda is corruption. They are good at that. They are good at being corrupt. They are good at embezzling. And even you look at them like this, they are not ashamed. They are not ashamed. And they are never going to be satisfied. That's why, for me, if they got satisfied with the level of corruption, how much they have embezzled, how much they have eaten, I would say, okay. But they are never going to get satisfied. So that's why they need to step out and also observe how a sane government or how a government is supposed to function that caters for her people. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Francis there. I come to you, Mr. Okot. Advice, recommendation to the government, to the companies, to the individuals.
I think what I can do best, there are two ways of my ways forward, the micro and the macro. I think here the micro would be more helpful because this goes to individuals and persons. Like I would encourage the professionals, the youth, the youngsters who are able-bodied, who can adventure and make a difference. Let them come. Staying back home idle makes no sense. Money is money. Okay, you might even get money while washing dishes, or even or being a chef, being a waiter is all money. So I would encourage people to migrate if there's a way, but I would say that they should be very careful. Right now, there are so many scammers online, who give false kind of information about immigration, and they ask desperate Ugandans to pay money. And I've known of a few people who have lost money in that manner. So I caution them that even if you are eager to come out, try and do your homework very well. Then you come out. But above all, too, again, don't just leave Uganda. Uganda is a very beautiful country. We are all out here, but we miss home every day. As Gordon said, that if he could get some, even a half of his pay back home, he would happily go back and what? Settle home. I can tell you, if I could use my, life and professional exposure here back home, I would happily go back and do some things back home for my people. But because of the conditions back home, I cannot go easily. I have to, kind of move in and out. And then to the companies, I think this one, they go hand in hand with the government. I think the establishment of Uganda must verify the companies pretty well before them being permitted to recruit and export professionals or workers out there. Some are scammers. And to our country, the government, I think this one here, my voice cannot be heard. I've talked and talked. I think it's just, even as yesterday, should be packing. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Okot, Ochen, and I know very many young people are out there. They want to listen to such advice, and they want to really get to learn how they can improve themselves. Madam Kyomugasho, Miriam, 90% of the people that go to the Middle East are actually ladies, young girls. What specific advice, recommendation do you have for the young girls, for the government, specifically to the ladies, that can help them, one, if they have to go to live a better life, but also if they don't have to go, how they can really figure it out in their own country?
If you have been through any airport or exit any migration office in Uganda, and you just look at the young girls lining up, either it be it passport office or at the airport, some are going, some are coming. They are excited, some are happy, some don't know what is going to happen. Then you feel sad in a way. I don't think most of them would wish to be going, especially those you see like they are leaving young ones behind. You see them carrying 2 babies, and then they are getting papers, and then you wonder who's gonna raise these children who have stayed behind. But I remember that in every situation, in every condition where conditions are not clear, where human rights are not that assured, the woman is likely to suffer more than the man. It's not, that's how it's their nature. They are so vulnerable and they are easily exploited. So when we are sending, if I were president, I would really put my foot on the ground. I would be so cautious. I would make sure that the system is really clearly monitored to ensure that these ladies who are going outside, some for skilled labor, some for unskilled labor, some for to explore any opportunities that could be there, which is a good thing. I mean, if you are young, it's traveling out of your comfort zone is the best that you can do for yourself, whether conditions are good or not, because it exposes you to other opportunities that you might not know if you stay in one place. So ideally, going outside of your country, going to explore opportunities, be it studying or working, is the best that you can do to a young person. But that can happen to a young person. But if the conditions are not that good, that young person is vulnerable, and is open to exploitation, and that should be a concern of everybody. Currently, if you check or ask an economist, they will tell you that the biggest forex earner for Uganda today is exported labor. That is good and bad in a way. If we package our human resource, that human resource can be a resource like any other, but we are talking about human beings. So human beings need protection. They are not like coffee. Coffee, you can put it in a sack, whether it rains or shines, it can go bad, you can throw it away. But you can't do that to a human being. Once a human being, anything affects them, then they are hurt, and so many people are hurt in the process. And sometimes the pain cannot be reversed. We've seen so many things, so many bad things happening. Some people have lost their organs. Maybe they ended up in unscrupulous kind of groups, and people who exploited them into scams. There are people who, I was reading a lady, she said she lost 4 million to a company which promised to take her to Saudi Arabia for labor. And then that was a scam, and then she lost the money. Then she lost another 5 million to another scammer, also in Kampala. And these companies appear as registered. And then once you take those cases to police, the police barely does nothing. You know, the corruption. It starts from, so whether you are in Saudi Arabia or whether you are in Uganda, you are exploited anyway, and there is nobody to protect you in the process. So that is something that can be done in the short run if we are looking at the way forward. Can you protect these people? Can you streamline the processes? Can you monitor? The government takes taxes, revenue from these people. In 1 year, they say they take 1 billion in the form of revenue. They say that the labor export earns more, I think 25 billion shillings. At some point, I think $1 million in revenue, more than the coffee. So if you are earning that much from people, why don't you invest in embassies in where these people are working, where these people end up to, so that they are protected? You know, that's what you can do in the short term. We are not asking the government all of a sudden put up industries and provide jobs. It can't happen overnight, though it can happen in the due process. But in the meantime, why can't you look back and feed the cow you are going to milk? Why don't you put back some of that excessive revenue and that you are jubilating about? Why don't you invest back in protecting these people so that they come back home safely, and some can use like Gordon, who is working in skilled labor and Shika, and they can use some of their either earned income or skills back in the country when it's time for them to return back home. So I think my appeal goes to the government. I hope someone does something about it.
Thank you so much. And you do talk about the government. You know, recently there was, as always, an labor externalization exhibition in the country. And one of the things that came out was that the people that scam young people who want to go out there are in collaboration with either the police, allegedly, with either the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development, or any other powerful people. But also something came out that the Uganda Human Rights Commission has not done enough to give guidance to these people, yet it's their role, but also Parliament of Uganda in terms of doing their oversight and trying to legislate properly to see that young people in this country are protected. I want us to use our last 5 minutes by giving a minute to each of you to talk about one specific thing as you give your parting shots. What is that one minimum that if the government of Uganda put up today would actually attract you as an individual to leave Canada, to leave the USA, to leave the UAE and come back and stabilize and operate in the country called Uganda? What is that one thing, please? And I'll start with you, Mr. Gordon.
I see. If I left Uganda, if I left Uganda, there are some conditions which I cannot want to go back to. But again, first of all, the reason we are moving out of Uganda is because we don't have jobs in Uganda. That's the bottom line. If we had jobs back home, if I can go back to Uganda and start working, why not? I would not want to be here. That's for sure. Yeah, but again, like they said, the fish rot from the head and everything is getting scrambled there. But again, another thing that we should be asking ourselves as Ugandans, what are we doing to better that situation? What are we doing to get change that we all want? Is there anything we're doing specifically to get change that we need? Or we shall just talk and talk? Museveni will hand over to his son will hand over to his son, then his son as well, as we talk and talk and talk. What are we doing to ensure that our people get to know what they can do to get the change that they deserve as a country? That's very important. As ANT, our method was to go down to the grassroots and ensure everyone is engaged. But as you know, sometimes lack of finances here and there, we are not able to do as much as we want to do. But if we can individually come in, support these parties that are doing something right in ensuring civic education is done to our people, the last person. Because see, they say democracy is democracy that we have now, but for sure, the people in the villages, if you ask them why they vote the president, they would not know why they vote. They just vote because they are told to vote. So people have to know how valuable their votes are. People have to know what they can do as individuals to make sure they cause the change they need, other than just looking at some opposition that Museveni has set up for himself, and we think it is the right opposition to follow, and we might end up again doing the same things, washing and putting in the soil. I thank you.
Sure, let me come in. Just my part, I would say, if I had a chance to go back to Uganda or something like appeal to me to go back, one, if there is genuine democracy, fairness, justice, inclusivity, I would go home. Right now, I find that Ugandans have been fragmented based on flimsy identity aspects, which is not good for the country. So I want to see a united Uganda, and when I go back home, I want to be assured of my safety and security for my investments and myself.
For me, if I can say, I think I would maybe say something different. I want to call upon all Ugandans. We are all here. I mean, lamentations are not going to help us. I wish all these people who are desperate enough to pack their bags and leave the country, and even those who stay behind, you are educated, you are empowered, you know what is the right thing to do. I wish we could all synergize, gather all that energy, all that frustration, and turn it into change, and change the things we think are not right, and create the Uganda we want and we think we deserve, which we rightly deserve, not even think we deserve, so that we can all stay home and develop our country instead of wasting our labor out of the country to develop other people's countries, which doesn't help us. It's like going to babysit someone's kid when yours is home crying and hungry, and nobody's there to take care of them. Francis, your conclusion?
Resources that it takes for it to develop without even asking for foreign aid. If they came to that realization and then they wake up and say, okay, how do we tap these resources in the most appropriate way? But the way how now they are using it is more of a way that is not appropriate. That's why instead of looking at what is the plight of the people in the diaspora, or what condition do they go through when they are making this money, they are proud of, oh, we get so much remittances from the Middle East. But how these people are making this money, they don't want to know. And then number two, to acknowledge that, look here, these people in the diaspora are indeed doing something. For example, each one of you here who is in the diaspora, like Okot, I know Okot, you must be having a multitude of people that you are supporting. Either you are paying school fees, either you are attending to someone, all that money you are injecting it in the economy.
Yeah.
Some of it would be the responsibility of government. Yeah. So you are a government. Not until we realize that, and then we say we need to respect. If there is policy, we are engaged. If there is something that we are doing, for example, Gordon, don't be surprised that farm of yours, when it picks up, a big person picks interest in it in the government, and they tell you that the land title that you have is not yours. But that should not scare us, since we are looking at how do we streamline. How can 10 land titles sit on a single plot of land? That kind of, I don't know even how I can call it, is what we are looking for to stop. But we are ready, all of us, to say we can do something home. We have had experience on how some of these things run and work, and they are not even much smarter than us. We can do these things, but the launching pad, the conditions at home are still lacking for such ideas to go through. But I keep saying that we shall keep discussing about these issues and getting solutions. Like from this discussion, I have got also a lot of knowledge on how I can go about different things. So engaging each other as Ugandans is the way to go, and listening to each other, and then we take it from there. As Gordon said, as AMT, we believe the nation is built from the family. That's why we are using the bottom-up approach, that at one time we shall be up there, and the mass, the real mass shall have been enlightened and built to bring the change that works for each one of us in the country and even beyond. Thank you.
Thank you all. Gordon, Ochen, Francis, and Phillip. I think Phillip has had internet challenges, but thank you so much, and we really appreciate. On behalf of Civic Space Ugandans in Diaspora, I would like to wish you a nice weekend, and please let's make things better, not bitter, as Shaka Sali would say. Let's try to build a better Uganda. And thank you so much for the efforts all of you are doing. We hope that our conversations reach in the right ears and maybe make a difference, even in among us, like Francis said, that we learn something from each other. It's even educative to us, even to listen to each other and have this conversation. Yeah, please, you can say bye-bye to us. We were winding down.
Yes. Women and lady, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you so much for the amazing thoughts, and thank you so much for the guidance you give to the government, to the companies, and to the young girls and boys in this country that are looking forward to grow themselves economically, but also professionally. And I hope someone out there should be able to listen to a couple of these ideas and do something about them. You see, just like you mentioned, the internet system has been successful in trying to disconnect, disorganize the activity we've had here, but through trying to keep on, we've tried to gather something. Special thanks to the Center for Constitutional Governance for making this possible, and special thanks to every other guy who is out there in the machines trying to add up things here and there. Thank you for being with us, and see you next time.